Back to the show. I'm Stephen Willis. This is the POMcast, Tuesday edition, the second ever episode. Thank you so much for viewing yesterday. The numbers we got in were fantastic. Hopefully, we can continue to build on those. But as I did yesterday, I'm going to give you a little bit more about me. I'm going to give you a little bit more about Ole Miss, and we are going to break down Ole Miss versus Kentucky in the second segment of the show. I went over my resume yesterday. Let's get a little personal this time. I am a year removed. The reason I need practice to get back into the swing of this is I'm a year removed from two brain surgeries. I actually have a brain tumor, a little piece of a brain tumor still in my head. The operation removed the vast majority of that. I had to relearn how to walk. Anything that required fine motor skills, I had to relearn how to do. And it's been a long, winding road over the last year, but that kind of got done. And I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do and what I really enjoy and why it doesn't need to just be covered in a prisoner of the moment type way. It's more of a 30,000 foot view is what fans are expecting instead of, oh my goodness, this is the second quarter, we're down by a touchdown, fire everybody. And then you end up winning the game by 3 touchdowns, and that person is noticeably sour, and he just wants to be upset. That's fine. That's fine. But that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to concentrate on the actual real. We're going to concentrate on how do we win, how do we get to the level we want to be at. So we want to build that way. We're not going to complain. We're not going to tear down. But we're going to talk about what needs to be done to build to the level we expect to be at. There's some sites that cover that will look at a schedule and tell you exactly why Ole Miss will lose or the other team will lose. Not while one team will win, but that's the way they are remedially covering the game. They don't know how to, let's say, tell and communicate the fact that there's things that are being done well by the team that won the game. It's all in their mind about who messed up. Because honestly, if you look down at it, it doesn't take much knowledge to figure out why who messed up. It just doesn't take that much. So we're going to do things a little differently. We're going to handle things, and obviously by the numbers, you guys are responding to that. But that's kind of the little bit of the layout of where I'm coming from in the last year of building up to this moment. And like I said, I wanted to launch my final product this past spring, but with all this virus stuff there, and all we would do is get on there and talk about virus, and people would be pissed off and they'd leave, and it's hard to build in that environment. It really is. So we're going to wait. We're going to wait until next spring, and from there we're going to launch. This is going to be a fantastic little project we're on, and this is leading me to a little bit of practice of talking so we can actually spit out the news of the day. So that's pretty cool. But let's talk about Ole Miss today. We don't have a lot because not much is being said. Nobody has seen anything. So let's go over the running backs at Ole Miss and the roles that they kind of play. The starter is unquestionably Jerrion Ealy, the former MVP of the Under Armour All-Star Game, the former 5-star. He averaged, I think, 7 yards a carry last year as a true freshman, and something to do with receiving. The long story short, the only other person in the last 10 years to do that is Nick Chubb, and that's good company to be in. So what are you gonna do? How are you gonna build it? At FAU, they had a couple of different types of running backs, and that's true when I say that. They had Devin Singletary, who nickname is Motor, that is built remarkably like Jerry and Ely, by the way. They had, I can't remember his first name. His last name was White. He's kind of a straight line guy. I think from looking at him, he favors Snoop Connor, and then they had a big boy. I don't remember his last name. But each of these running backs will feature in roles, and you want to put them in position to where they are in space, and that's what Lane Kiffin has done throughout all of his stops. Whenever somebody asks what is Lane Kiffin's offensive philosophy, he doesn't really have an offensive philosophy other than getting his playmakers the ball in space. Period. That's about all. So now how are they going to do that? Because they can't move Jerry and Ely out and let him be the jet sweep slot guy, because that's going to take Elijah Moore or Dennis Jackson off the field. So you need to move it through flares, draws, screens to get him the ball on the other side of the line. Getting past the defensive lineman, and all of a sudden you have a nice chance for this to be successful. So I expect to see a lot of screen passes. I expect to see a lot of flare passes. Now, the problem with the flare pass is, we talked yesterday that Matt Corral was leading the job and could possibly get it. He struggled with the swing pass last year. That is going to be a big part of his game, is the swing pass to Jerry and Ely, the screen pass to Jerry and Ely, the shovel pass to Jerry and Ely. That is going to be the root of this offense, really. It is getting Jerry and Ely the ball in space. That's really it. Now, we could have a situation where you have Jerry and Ely, Dennis Jackson, and let's say Jonathan Mingo in most plays on the field. Kenny Yeboah as the tight end that's serving as a fullback, in Jerry and Ely's the back. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is in this situation. But you could have, in that look, a fly sweep setup that is designed to mess with the linebackers. It is designed to cause a false step. So, my favorite play in the world is the triple option you heard me mention yesterday, where first option is the fly sweep. Now picture that linebacker having to step, because somebody really, really fast is on that, and if you have the B or the C gap, you really have to go to get there, or else that guy's going to turn the corner. So that's in your head. The second option is the inside zone. So if you are already going, if you're committing, if you're worried about that fly sweep and you create a false step, you're not fitting the A gap or the B gap, something to where that inside zone can pop. So you're worried about that. So it turns into a pick your poison type situation. If you make all the right decisions up to that point, the quarterback can keep the ball, go around the opposite end in the zone read. It is designed to torture linebackers. It is really the most beautiful play in football. If you have a linebacker problem, this will make it worse. And there's so much fly sweep action in this offense. Go back and watch 2017 and 2019 FAU. Actually, go back to 2018 if you need to. You can see the fly sweep, the way they used Willie Wright, the way they used, I can't remember his name now. The fly sweep guy last year, I think it was D'Angelo or something like that. But the way they use that is to cause a false step or a moment of indecision in those linebackers and then pop a running back in that hole that they are vacating because they're being indecisive. So that's something to look for. It also requires a lot of repetition. We're probably not going to see it operating at its highest level until mid to late this season or next season, just to be honest. Right now, we're dealing with essentially a 10-game spring practice. That's what this is. I mean, people are going to get upset because they like to get upset. But the reality of this season is really no different if they hadn't played at all. It's a 10-game developmental season. There could be a position where you play all three quarterbacks. This doesn't count against eligibility. This doesn't count against coaches. Of course, you say that. Jay Hobson at USM might feel differently leaving after one game. But this is not... If you treat this season like a normal season, you're doing this wrong. If you treat 2021 like it is 2 seasons away as opposed to really next season, you're doing this wrong. If you fire your coach right now, you're doing this wrong. You are not using eligibility for playing players. You're not... This year does not count. It is a true year zero. But that's beside the point. We're talking about the running backs. So that's the way they're going to use Jerry and Ely. They want to get him in space. They want to let him use his elusiveness, his physicality out there against a cornerback as opposed to defensive lineman and go. The way they're going to do that is through the fly sweep, which will be, you've seen the Speed Freaks graphics from Lane Kiffin. Elijah Moore and Dennis Jackson are going to be those guys. They're going to run that fly sweep action. When they run that fly sweep action, they just turn around and become an outlet for the quarterback. It becomes an easy completion that's going to gain 3 to 5 yards. It just is. Because a lot of times that position isn't covered. There's people are going to sink past that and not make up that ground. Now, Snoop Connor, I expect him to be the battering ram of this offense. He's going to get the honor of getting the tough yards. His job is to get 3 yards every time he gets the ball. 3rd and 2, get the first down. 4th and 1, get the first down. You might see a situation come in to where they take the slot off the field, put 2 running backs in the backfield with Kenny Yeboah at tight end, and let's go. Like I said yesterday, this is going to look a lot like Rich Rod's offense in the run game. There's no getting around it. I mean, it is what Rich Rod did. It's inside zone, it's outside zone, it's split zone. It's the same stuff. So in a lot of situations, it's going to look similar. Now, the benefit to that is, before everybody loses their mind, we ran for 257 yards a game last year with freshmen. Yeah, let me say that again. We did all that with freshmen. So those offensive linemen learning how to block that system. Those running backs learning how to run that system. The quarterbacks learning how to run that system. Now, let's leave the wideouts out of this because this passing game last year was a disaster. I mean, it's something you can say. Both can be true. We could have been effective running the ball, and the passing game could have been a disaster. Same thing can be true. So keep an eye on that. go with Jerry and Ely in space and figuring out how to use that. See a lot of arrow screens, see a lot of swing passes, see a lot of straight running back screens. That is how we're going to use this passing game. That's how Lane Kiffin used this passing game at FAU. When I say he uses pass gaming in FAU, when they brought the Baylor system in. It is important to know that he believes in that system too, because after Kendall Briles moved on to Houston and then FAU and they moved to Charlie Weiss Jr., they kept the Baylor system, even though Charlie Weiss Jr. had not run the Baylor system. So obviously I call it the Baylor system, and obviously it's kind of a thing, but we're talking about the Art Briles from 2015 when they're putting up those special numbers. A lot of what they do is going to be tempo based. It's going to be simple. And we're going to count on the defense to make a mistake because we're going so fast. We're going to put them in a tricky mental position because we're going so fast. Not necessarily because what we're doing, but because we're going so fast. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. And, hey, enjoy this unbought, unbiased, uncompromised podcast and this gift to you. All right, welcome back to the POMcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, and it is just, like I said before, I'm just completely blown away at how much you looked at it yesterday and listened to it, and hopefully we can build this even more and become the most dominant Ole Miss podcast on the radio. I really do appreciate it, and I'm going to take this opportunity, like you can follow me at The Stephen Willis, or you can follow the show at Old Positively. We have a Facebook group at Positively Ole Miss that you can join. We have a YouTube channel on Positively Ole Miss that you can join. And it's Stephen Willis on Facebook. Hit me up with a friend request, and I'll be happy to help any way I can. And basically through those platforms, we're going to evolve. And we're going to do a lot of stuff. And in that stuff is basically... We're gonna talk about the stuff that other people want, because they spend so much time trying not to be fans that some of the fun stuff of being a fan is just missed. We're going to talk about uniforms. We're going to talk about the rumored powder blue uniform. We're going to talk about recruiting from 30,000 feet. We're going to try and get interviews from prospects on the air. We're going to do all of that stuff. And by doing that, hopefully we'll help you be informed on Ole Miss football. Realize that everything is not terrible, because everybody went somehow from snark to, hey, let's bag on Ole Miss as much as we can, and that's silly. And that's why this podcast is here, honestly. There's just people that don't know how to be fans. So, and if you have a problem with that, don't listen. So, we're going to talk a little bit about Kentucky now. We're going to move on to week 2 of our season preview. We are dealing with a very experienced team in Kentucky, and they're getting their quarterback, Terry Wilson, back this year. After Lynn Bowden kind of took college football by storm. So, what does that mean? Well, they're really good on the fronts, the offensive and defensive front. They run a variation of the Rich Rod zone read. If Ole Miss would have played Kentucky last year, it would have been the most boring game in the history of football. It would have been Army-Navy without the pageantry. That's what would have happened. Now, you've heard me say that Ole Miss's running game now is exactly what Rich Rod did, which is true. And you heard me say that things are going to revolve around that run game, which is true. But this will not be a boarding game. If it wasn't in Lexington, I would be pressed to pick Ole Miss. I think talent-wise, it's about the same, and I think Kentucky could be very good if they have somebody to take the top off of the defense. I'm not sure at this point they do. Lynn Bowden was that guy who could take the top off and, keep safeties honest from being beaten from behind. Whenever Terry Wilson was the quarterback with Lynn Bowden, that's kind of what this looked like. It opened up things for Benny Snell and Cavassier Smoke and all those guys. So this is what we need to know. They return, it looks like 8 starters plus their starting quarterback from 2 years ago on offense. They return 7 starters on defense. They have an experienced linebacker group, as we talked about before. Their defense is going to be technically sound. And basically you're going to have to earn it to beat them. Now, we should have the talent to beat them. We went up there in 2017 and beat them with not that much of a talent discrepancy. I mean, we had AJ and DK and those guys. But, it's one of those games where the home field should play a part in it. It might not. I don't know what it's going to look like up there. So if you take away home field and it's just a talent competition, I mean, it's pretty close to 50-50 on talent. You're like, Steve, they went to a bowl game last year and the year before and almost went 4-8. Yeah, I hear you. I understand. I get that. The talent's still pretty close to even. The coaching is going to be pretty close to even. Mark Stoops is a heck of a coach. He has basically built that team up for nothing. So, if talent's 50-50, it looks like coaching is going to be 50-50, and there's no home field advantage, it's a 50-50 game. Don't let anybody tell you any different. You look at the numbers they have on the field. You look at everything about this game. It's pretty much the same. You worry about a seam rose busting a long touchdown? Okay. They're worried about Jerry and Ely busting a long touchdown. Yeah. My question with Kentucky, is there anybody that can take the top off the defense? If not, you will see the safeties play closer and closer to the line of scrimmage. They won't have to respect it. And all of a sudden, Kentucky's playing in a 15-yard box because they can't do anything beyond that. So it's easier to defend a 15-yard box. It's like getting into the tight red zone at that point. It's easier to protect it. The defensive line discrepancies that we're dealing with, they go away because more people are able to fill in for the defensive line shortcomings. We have, like we said, we have a good linebacking core, and we should have sophomores at least at safety. It's a good situation. Now, Kentucky could have that guy that can take the top off the defense. I'm willing to admit that I don't know that answer. They don't have Lynn Bowden, because if they did, we'd have seen him last year. So I think it's going to look a little bit strange. But they don't have home field advantage. They don't have better players, and they do not have a better coach than Ole Miss. Period. Can Ole Miss lose the game? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's what a 50-50 actually means. Both teams can win the game. I am going to go with Ole Miss by 3. Ole Miss by 3. And now that does raise an interesting question about how good of a field goal kicking team we're going to be. We have not been solid since Gary Wunderlich. Period. We need to be able to count on 40-yard and end field goals. If we do that, we can win some games. Last year we were winless. In one score games. Well, as you can hear, the end is near. I really thank you for listening. Catch us on all your social platforms. Give us a follow. Be sure to share or retweet, because that's the way we're going to build this. And once we get into this, there's going to be a way for you to do tips and things like that. So I really do appreciate it, and hope you have a good day.